Okay, cool. This is my first time making a YouTube video, so we'll see how this goes. Trying to do a voiceover, anywho. But yeah, here's my drawing process. I completely forgot to record the entire sketch and the line art. That's a lie. I did record it, but for some reason it just didn't save properly, so I lost all that. So this is mostly the coloring process. Currently, as you can see, I chose an old photo of the character. I inputted what base colors I needed from that, and right now I'm just adding the flat colors. Pretty simple. Yeah. Sorry, that wasn't really much of an introduction. Um, so I might as well do a more proper one. Hi, I'm Bennett. This is going to be my YouTube channel. I mostly just want to do my speed paints and show my art, my process. Maybe I'll just ramble and talk about whatever I feel like that day, but yeah, this is, I guess, more of an introduction and just showing more of my art process. Yeah, so fun. Apparently I left a big old boring space of me doing nothing there. I was probably away from my tablet doing God only knows what. For some reason, later on in the video, I start drawing parts and I didn't save it, so I had to redraw it, which took a long time. I think the total of this painting probably took about 6 to 7 hours, which is shorter than usual. Usually it takes me about an average of 9 to 10 hours per every drawing, but I don't think that I included the sketch and line art in my drawing time because I lost all the recording from that, and the recordings on my time lapses are usually how I go and find out what, like how long it took. So yeah. Also, sorry for all of the ums and the yas and so's and so forth. You're gonna get a lot of that because none of this is scripted because I'm lazy. I don't know what the fuck's going on here. I think my tablet's glitching out. Either that or I just let a big part of nothing into the video. Anywho, pretty much, I just added highlights, shading, you know, the gist. From there, I pretty much start blending. I try to blend the lightest parts first because it makes it a lot easier. It's a lot harder to blend light into dark as opposed to dark into light. So I start with the light stuff first, and then I'll switch up my base color for my blending brush to be a darker shade as I go, and then I'll start blending out those darker shades. That's typically the most time-consuming part of the entire process. The flat colors don't take too long. I pretty much scribble wherever and then fill it in with rough shapes of what kind of shading that I want and stuff like that, and where the shading would go. So flat colors don't take too long, but blending takes a really long time, and sadly in my time-lapse videos you can't see how long it takes because I'm doing one like continuous brush stroke for a really long time to make sure that it really blends out. And for some reason Medibang, which is the art program that I use, it just doesn't record the whole brush stroke. It just records like the before and after, so you essentially, like, it's just magically there. And it does that for about every brush stroke, but you don't see like the process of creating a line itself, so you don't actually see me blend. So it seems like my blending goes a lot faster in my time lapse. It doesn't. It is the absolute most time consuming part of the entire process. Yeah, so blending takes a while. It's not super great or fun, but you get used to it. I personally really enjoy the results of it. I think it looks best. I do really like styles that have like a hard blend, but for some reason, like, I can't do it for myself. I have a really hard time doing hard blending. If I have trickier areas like the fingers here, which I didn't do for once, but if I'm having a hard time blending out an area and I need the lines or like the shades to be more specific and set in a specific way, I'll just go back in with my airbrush later, which you'll see me do a bit over top after with the highlights, because I do tend to do that with the highlights most. But But besides that, yeah, here I'm just doing the blush. I pretty much take the most possible saturated color that I use for their blush. Sometimes it's more of an orange red, sometimes it's more of a pink. Hers is very pink, as you can tell. And just go in another layer, and then turn the opacity down once it's done. For the lips, I typically use the same rule of thumb of always making the lip color the same as the blush color, as that is how most human faces work. Here you see me trying to add the highlights. I tried making it bigger, but it didn't really work. I tried adding some smile lines, because I do that with a lot of my paintings, actually, and I just use the airbrush for that. For some reason, it just didn't really suit her, so I got rid of it. Yeah, the eyes aren't too bad. I never use a fully saturated white. I always use like a bluish gray, and then obviously shade with darker grays. Thankfully, Filanore's got some really dark blue eyes, and I love drawing them. Because normally when I draw eyes, the eyes are such a bright color, but brown eyes and darker colors like her eyes are really a lot of fun for me to draw, and it's great. Sorry if the voice recording sounds weird now, or anything like that. My cat walked in, so if at any point the voice recording just sounds very weird and I got off track like this, it's because something happened and I had to stop recording it, and I just went back to it. Anyways, besides speeding up the videos and compiling them all together, I'm not really going to be editing much, so it fully is just a shit ton of rambling. The hair, I pretty much do the exact same as the skin tones. I place it all in one big layer together, and then I'll blend it out. But for blending it, I typically use my wet watercolor brush, as I find it leaves more of a streaky looking appearance, and thus gives the illusion of like hair strands. But yeah, it's pretty simple. Not a lot to say there. I try to get like some of the more detailed areas, like obviously her hair there, where you want to see more of the detail in like what direction it's going and stuff, because the fact that her hair is sort of in a half up, half down. But sometimes when you're blending it, you sort of lose those details a bit, and I just can't be bothered to go back and fix them. But it still, for the most part, tends to work out the way that you plan. For larger strands of hair like this, I don't actually go the full length of the hair, and then I just fill it all in later. For the smaller strands, as you can tell, I just use the full length of the hair because it's so much easier and so much faster. I really liked it, but I thought that the hair just wasn't dark enough, so I just went over it with like just pure black and brought down the opacity. I tend to do that a lot of the time with things if I realize I don't like them. I realized the eyebrow was a bit off in its angle there, and it just didn't look right. It didn't suit her face shape, and it wasn't Filanore. So quick and easy, just changing the angle. Now I'm just going in with her nail polish, because a lot of the time I do small details like that no one ever is going to notice, but I know it's there, and I do it, and it pulls my characters together, and I absolutely love doing them. They take way too long, though. There's absolutely no reason as to why I needed to shade this nail polish and make it look good, but alas, here I am, doing exactly that. Oh my god, we're only like 9 minutes into this video. We've got 10 more to go. I don't know if I can talk this long. Typically, for the clothes, I do each article of clothing on its own separate layer. See, I think I did 3 or 4 different layers for the dress itself, because it took way too fucking long to get it the way that I liked it. And that's not including the lace that I added to it later on. The dress is a slight reference to Sci-Fi's 2009 movie Alice, which is like a sci-fi version of Alice in Wonderland. I really loved the dress in that movie, and so obviously I styled Filanore off of Alice, tattoo included, and I realized that it had like sort of diamond-ish patterns with like a lace in the pattern itself. So I tried doing that to my best of my ability and keeping the dress still looking one solid color, So it took a long time. To get the lace how I wanted, I just took a PDF off of Google, traced the lines in the color that I needed them to be in, which in this case was that like really bright white minty blue. And then obviously, as the pattern doesn't repeat, but I wanted it to remain seamless, I fit it best however I could, and then erased it using a airbrush on my next layer on top. So that way they just sort of blend together good enough so that once I shade it, it's not visible. And this is just me reusing the same piece of lace pattern over and over because I can't be bothered to start a new layer every time and just have tons of lace. But yeah, you just sort of get used to it. Lace is hard to work with. Sadly, I don't have any super cool brushes downloaded on Medibang. I know I can. Same with Fire Alpaca. I'm lazy, so I don't, even though in the long run it'll save me a lot of time. So yeah, this is me just finishing up the laces, and then from there, after I finish the lace, I just erase all of the excess lace by selecting the flat color and then inverting the selection. That's typically what I do most of the time if I'm trying to erase anything that's outside of the lines that's detailed. Sometimes it doesn't really work, so I have to go in and erase it by hand. That's whatever. I felt the diamonds didn't really pop out as much as I had hoped that they would, but I didn't want to bring the opacity down on those darker lines a bit more, so I figured if I highlight the edges, it'll look more like diamonds. So from there, I just did that, but then I was an idiot and merged all my layers, so I couldn't do the same last trick that I used to erase the lace, so I had to manually erase it here. And yeah, there we go. The flat colors for the dress is done. I'm a really weirdo, and for some reason, shading the clothes is typically the least fun part for me, and I procrastinate in doing it so often. Shockingly, I did it pretty fast in this. Normally, I'll do like anything to avoid it, but being as this main piece mostly is like most of the space is taken up by her dress, I can't really avoid it, so I did the best I could. I just shade with airbrush when it comes to clothing. I used to do shading with the watercolor brush, but it's so much easier with the airbrush. As you can tell, my storage is running low on my tablet, and it got really mad at me and it kept doing that. So there was a few times that I had to like stop recording and delete things and then start again and continue that process. But it's a learning curve, I guess. Use shitty things to draw with and you'll get shitty results. So on this, I was just essentially, after I did the shading on the chest, I realized that it was a lot darker than the rest of the dress, so I brought the opacity down and then just erased with my eraser on a minor percentage. For her boots, I kept them really simple. Once again, referencing Sci-Fi's Alice. And yeah. I couldn't tell if I wanted to do red laces to complement her red leggings or if I wanted to do blue laces because I thought blue laces might have been more cohesive with the piece. In the end, I ended up going with the red laces, but I did try out the blue laces first because my boyfriend thought as they also would be more cohesive with the piece. It turns out we were both wrong. The red ended up looking more cohesive in the end anyways, so I ended up going with those. I know it's a bit too early in the video because we haven't even gotten that part yet, but yeah. So you get to watch me color in blue laces only to change them red. Thankfully, you can just use a layer selection and then change the colors really easily with that, and that's what I did. The background was probably the hardest part on this piece. I had a good idea of what I wanted to do, and then it wasn't wanting to work. For some reason, at least on all of the drawing programs that I've used, the blur brush never really seems to want to work. It always makes your program lag out and glitch and all that. And so I took a really long time just blurring things out in the background. Thankfully, in the screen recording, it slowed, it didn't take as long anyways. it cut out all of the times that it glitched, so that was absolutely amazing. Mostly to make sure I got the texture that I wanted and just to really get a rough shape idea. I started with my soft watercolor brush just to get all those like prickly dot shapes, and then I went over it with like some other brushes to smoothen it out and blend it and make it look more oil painty. I don't know how to use that word. I tried doing some clouds. They ended up making the sky just look gray, but it's whatever. It is what it is. But yeah, you can see a rough idea of what I wanted. I wanted her in a path in a garden with them big green hedges or trees, or I don't know what those things are. I think they're a form of hedge or an evergreen. I couldn't tell you. I can't be bothered to look it up right now. I did realize after I finished doing the full recording, though, that I did forget to do her beauty mark. I added it in the end after, and you'll see it at the end of the video, but she did, in fact, have a beauty mark on her face, and I completely forgot to color it, because typically I would do them in the line art stage, but I figured because I wasn't entirely sure of how the colors would form together on this one, because color theory's a bitch, I wanted to leave it till the end because I wasn't sure what brown would be too dark and what brown would be too light, and I didn't want to have to go back and fix it later. In the end, I just ended up screwing myself over because I did in fact need to go back and fix it later. For all the grass there, I just again used my water. Actually, no, I didn't use my watercolor brush. I used an acrylic brush on here and just one by one did every strand of grass, and then it all got blurred in the end anyways. For the hedges, I added a little bit of brown so that you can see sort of the tree underneath it part, the part that holds the leaves, the stem. I don't really care. Did some light shading, and yeah. Sometimes Medibang just glitches out and it doesn't want to cooperate. As you can see, I'm having some trouble with that blending brush. It's just not wanting to blend and stay blended. I don't know why it did that. It kept doing that for so long. I think I spent like an hour just trying to blend the whole background out because it refused to. This whole video, every single clip on it is on 10 times speed, so that gives you a rough idea of how long it took me to do this video, and just to do the whole art process. And that's not even including the parts that I cut out, because I did cut out some parts because, again, there were some parts in it that I needed to draw multiple times. There's all sorts of things. But yeah, she turned out really good, and I'm really proud of it. And I think it's a good way of showing my whole process. Obviously, I have more complicated backgrounds. I'll go back and do them later. But yeah, hope this was a good introduction to my channel. I'm gonna slow down my ramblings. We're at the 18-minute mark, and I don't know how many seconds are left of this video. But I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like, I guess. Yeah. Nice to meet you, and hopefully I will see you. Not really see you, but you'll hear me ramble in another speed paint in the future. Have a good day! Woo!